If there is only one thing you need to learn and understand about Magna Carta 1215, it's this. Magna Carta 1215 is the sole peaceful means known to humankind by which the rights of the weakest, most innocent citizens can prevail over a massive, potentially corrupt and oppressive state power. This is the voice of freedom, Magna Carta 1215 Learning Centre. Welcome to your next lesson with hosts Fitzroy and Carl.
And howdy, folks. I'll turn my camera on quickly. Had a big day. Hope you've been okay. If you haven't seen already the news, None 2K has been banned for 6 days. And Carl Liebold, Voice of Freedom channel has been removed completely from YouTube. So I don't know that that one had a huge amount of subscribers. I wasn't allowed to monetize anything out of them. So that's not any huge loss. Not that there's anything huge to monetize on any of them, if I'm honest. But that's not why we do this. So Voice of Freedom will not be seen on None 2K for the next 6 days. Fingers crossed. I have removed, or not removed, but made private one other video that they might have challenged me on the same grounds. And by the looks of it, they're looking to try and shut down all of the Voice of Freedom channels at some point. So be aware that we are always on Project Matilda and on Rumble. Ozai is how you find me in Rumble. While Fitz is speaking, I'll put up a banner where you can. I might even try and put up the link in comments where you'll be able to go and see the Rumble channel and join it if that's what you'd like to do. Everything goes to Rumble these days and to Project Matilda. And if you missed last Friday night's free-for-all, that is now removed. And the reason for all of this, you can find it on Rumble. You can also find it on the Voice of Freedom Telegram site. If you haven't got that, go and join it, Voice of Freedom on Telegram. And yeah, good to have you on board. I don't think we have anywhere near the amount of subscribers that Fitz has for his Telegram channel, but hey, look, this isn't a race or a battle about who's got more of what. Good evening, my very good friend Fitzroy Sterling. How are you?
Good evening, Carl. It's wonderful to be back. It's just obviously a little bit late. That's obviously out of everyone's hands.
Had a bit of a problem with the power.
Back together. Got hit by a surge. But yeah, we're back on, and hallelujah for us getting this back on. Tonight, I'm really looking forward to it because it's going to be something a little bit different. So, yeah.
Well, I think it's the first time in 22 shows. I didn't make a big deal about it last week. I was going to make a bit of a sing and dance about it being 21st show and all that sort of thing, and somehow it eluded me. So there you go. That our big 21st show was last week. Today is 22. And in the first 21 shows, have we had a guest? I don't recall.
No. This is why this is quite exciting, actually.
Yes.
So this will be our first time we've gone beyond our limits. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Can you explain to me, A, why we are having a guest, and B, who our guest is?
Yeah. So tonight we're having a guest because something quite, I would say, what's the word I'm after here? Geez, somebody uses a lot of words. I'm a bit stuck tonight, I don't know. Something that really, really landed deeply for me happened on the weekend. So one of the guys that's in the Telegram chat group, who's obviously been learning on the sidelines really quietly, has been really moved by a lot of the information that we've been sharing. And so he joined the masterclass that I've been running through the channel. And he approached me, I think it was last week to memory, about wanting to engage with the people who stand out the front, who hand out pamphlets, to really get a sense of how much they understand why they're doing what they're doing. It was a real drive inside him. And I was really like, wow, that's huge. And so it sort of started there, sort of sought my advice. I gave some advice, and then he came back with some feedback that just knocked me off my chair. So I just thought, what a wonderful, well, not so much me, but I had that suggested to me. Why not get him on and let him express it how he experienced it, as opposed to speaking for him? So that's kind of what we're going to do, because then it's not me saying someone else's story. he's going to say it for himself. So I thought
Yeah,
that'd be
well,
a lot
that
more
sounds-
powerful, especially
sounds
someone
like
who's
a-
driven from a place of will and care. Like if you've been watching the shows, we've been talking about when you have the will, the drive, the determination combined with the care and the compassion, the outcome is always in the service of humanity. And this is one of those stories.
Beautiful. Well, I think with that magnificent introduction, we should say good evening to Harry. Thanks for coming and joining us tonight, mate.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for that intro. That was really nice. Yeah.
Harry, I'm not sure if you've got a chance to turn any volume up or anything. You're just a little bit soft, my friend.
Yeah.
If there's a way you can turn stuff up.
I think it's just my mic. Do I sound better now?
Yeah, we'll just work with what we got. So Harry's joined the masterclass. We had a bit of a chat in masterclass last week. But yeah, like I've just taken the screenshot of what Harry sent me as a question of what he wanted to do. So if we get a chance, we'll put that up, and then we can talk. Well, Harry, you can talk us through what was your thinking behind that. You know, like what was even the inspiration as to why that was something you wanted to do, and just give us a sense of why you were driven to even go down this pathway. But we'll see if we can pop it up, Carl. The next slide, and then we'll be able to see what. That's it. So, do you want me to read it, or do you want to read it, Carl?
Oh, I can read it.
Right,
hey,
sweet.
Fitz, there's an election coming up. What would be some good topics or questions to bring up to people out the front? It'd be a good idea to penetrate the conscience of the ones that hold government so close to their heart and spread their beliefs. Examples: taxation, responsibility, or theft. Talking about statism and sovereignty. What is the defining principle of democracy? Talking about the dark priest class who has the power to write a constitution, talking about the 1215 Magna Carta, defining law, etc. These are a few of the ideas in his head at the moment. It would not feel right not to say anything.
So just, Harry, if you don't mind just talking us through how this even got into you to want to, approach and why you were thinking this pathway would be the best way.
Yeah. So, like this was like coming up to election date when this idea popped into my head, and like the people that are probably holding us back, are the ones that are handing out the pamphlets. Like they're the ones telling everyone what to do, vote for this party, these pick my new master, etc. And like, so you gotta change their thoughts, because what people think is what drives the behavior of our reality,
So your thinking was the ones who are the supporters of the whole system to try and challenge them and see how they come to their own decisions where they believe they're actually acting in service of the people. Is that what you wanted to sort of see if you could get them to look into that?
Yeah, just kind of like I just wanted them to rethink what they were doing. Like, like I'm not really one for words, but they they research that their government, their master, they research all this stuff like all day and all the legal terms and all that codified law, and voting day is like where everyone is in the same place, and I thought it would be a good place to bring up a different perspective, a different point of view.
Yeah. So when I saw the intention, I went, wow, that's awesome. I love that you're driven to do that. And you've actually got the courage, because that takes courage to come and step in front of people that you've never met before and start asking them questions that are going to be that challenging. However, when I did look at it, even though they're things that I've covered and talked about and, expressed, and they're quite critical things to know, I sort of went, wow, that's really going to jump well ahead of anywhere where they're at, as I assume they'd be at, like the general population, that it would probably come across sounding like you're mental. So that's why I gave a different sort of way to look at it. And so, Carl, if you want to go down to the next one, this is my response as to what I actually suggested. So when you're ready, you can have a read of that if you like, Carl.
Thank you. Yes, just had a small disaster with a glass of cordial, but give me a moment. Me personally, I'm drawn to speak in ways the sleepers can recognise. So they recognise the term public servant. What does it mean to be a public servant? What does it mean to be in service? Is there a way to define what service is? What jobs are in service to the public? Is there a way people get assurance that the actions of one claiming to be a public servant remains within the confines of their role? Then get on to the oath and ask, what does an oath of office mean? So we're trying to expose the contradictions that people swallow without a second thought.
So that was kind of what I suggested. And Harry, you can tell us what happened from this point onwards if you like.
Yeah, so I wrote them down, and I walked in, and I pulled out my piece of paper, and they were really impressed that, like, I come with notes. So they were they were pretty impressed, a bit on their toes, and I just asked them those questions, and they all just they all agreed. They all like, yeah, they're public servants, and that they were just impressed. That not impressed. They were just I don't know. They were.
Well, let's look at it this way. Were they able to answer the first question?
No.
So they didn't. Everyone that you asked didn't know what the term public servant meant. They didn't understand how to actually.
Well, they knew what a public servant was, but it just wasn't really like. They were just surprised. They were just really surprised.
So when it comes to that question, what does it mean to be in service? Did you get to ask that question?
Yeah, I asked that, and they didn't say much.
So that means they didn't know what a public servant was, really, if they couldn't explain what it means to be in service?
Yeah. I guess you could say they didn't really know. They didn't really give a clear answer. There was a few of them there, and they didn't really give a really clear answer to any of them.
So, at a guess, the thing that was consistent, no matter which party they were spruiking for, was that they had a very vague idea of these words.
Yeah, it was all pretty new to them. So I'm glad I went down that path and asked those questions instead of the ones I was thinking of.
So, because at a basic level, like, did it sort of show you that if you were to jump straight into those other ones you want to talk about, they'd be well past their capacity if they didn't even know these basic entry level questions? They didn't have any clear idea or understanding of what they were.
Yeah, I guess you could say they did know what it was, but they just couldn't give a clear answer. And so that's probably, and they were more listening and agreeing, like, yeah, we elect, no, not, one of them said, by the people, for the people, something like that. They're just sort of blurting out things, and I didn't really understand it. Yeah.
So when you say they were blurting out things, it sounded like they were just spitting out stuff they've heard before without actually understanding what they were saying. Like, because they weren't able to give you an actual clear definition of what they meant when they said for the people, by the people. It's not like you got an explanation of what that means. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So what got exposed is that I'd say on an aggregate, like the collective, have a very thinly veiled understanding of what it is they're actually participating in. Would that be accurate as what you got out of that?
Yep. Yeah, definitely.
So then people get really, really excited or really, really charged up about stuff they don't even understand.
Yeah, like they went basically towards the end of the questions. They were all they're all in agreement, and they were starting to get a bit angry. Like after I said service a few times, and it's like they've never heard someone say that before. It was more like that.
Did you at any point bring up the term morality?
Towards the very end, like when I was leaving, I did.
Okay, so you want to tell us how that went?
Yeah, not much. I didn't really get much from any of it. One of them was saying, "Oh, I'm not really going to sleep well tonight. You've given me a lot to think about." You know, it was a lot of that.
Rightio. So from what I'm from my understanding, sorry, they had a very vague understanding of what the word service means, a very vague understanding of a public servant, a very vague understanding of how to even identify how someone is a public servant, and a very vague understanding of what morality means.
Yeah, pretty much. Like I guess you could say they knew what it was inside, but they've never like actually had to think about it.
Yeah, so when you say they knew what it was inside, they were not able to explain it outside, because if you can't explain something to someone else, it means you don't even know it yourself, because you need to be able to explain it to someone else to prove that you understand it. So they would just, my guess is they would hold some kind of loose definition of it that's very general and vague, and they're just satisfied with that. And that, to me, really depicts the level of consciousness that the aggregate operates from.
Yeah.
That they hold some loose understanding of things, but they don't have any real clear definition and specific understanding. Therefore, they can be fooled quite easily. Did you get that kind of sense as what was going on there?
For sure. Like if you're talking about the aggregate, like as I was talking to them, like after the questions, you know, they're still handing out their pamphlets, and one lady, she walks past and she goes, "No, I've done my research." You know, just complete, like, you know, there's like the people walking around, like they didn't want to listen, or they didn't want anything to do with it. They all hated voting day.
Okay, so the energy was that was something that they just had to do and get out of the way.
Yeah.
So that kind of just shows you what kind of slavery structure we're really working under. If people are, you know, coming to something where they have the bitterness and resentment towards, that they have to do, they don't understand, you know, what the true nature of it is. That's kind of what I'm getting out of what you're telling me.
Yeah. So like the things that I was thinking about saying to them, you know, it was completely, you know, it was way too far ahead, I guess you could say. I don't know. And then when you gave me those questions, like about authority, you know, that they are public servants, like that was, you know, like that, even that still got them to like go, like, what's going on here? And yeah.
So that, I mean, that's what all ties in with, I think, the previous week or the week before, where we had the one about the police officer who was trying to get some authority where he had none, and then it got exposed when he had none, and he turned away and ran away. Because the premise of that video was all about morality. Because to have authority, you need to operate within the confines of morality. That's the only way you can get authority.
Yeah.
If you don't operate within the confines of morality, then you're operating out of someone's prejudice, and that doesn't have authority. And when you're operating out of someone's prejudice, the only way you can get people to comply and do what you want them to do is through force. It's the only way. And that's who those police officers are. They're getting you to comply with someone's prejudices because they're there with force. You know, so that's why I love the link of how it shows how people volunteer into their slavery without even being aware of it, because of their loose understanding of the terms they hear, but they don't actually understand the true meaning of these words. Therefore, they can be fooled into believing they're participating in their freedom, where in actual fact, they're participating in the slavery because of the lack of knowledge they hold. Would that be something that you were picking up when you were witnessing what you were witnessing?
Yeah, 100%. It was like they've never heard the term public servants before.
Yeah. And so they never really thought about it, right? It's just a title, but they don't really think about what those words mean.
Yeah, and when I got to the oath, like that's when you know, the oath was when they started pushing me away almost. Like, you know, some were okay, some were really okay, but they started like piping up a bit louder almost.
So when you're saying, are you talking about the people handing out the pamphlets or the actual voting public?
No, the people handing out the pamphlets. So there's Labor, Liberal, and then the Greens. And
so they were starting to get a bit agitated with you when you were talking about the oath?
Yeah, it's like they'd forgotten something. And you know, it was more like they're realizing, you know, that they've forgotten something, and that, you know, that they missed something.
So maybe you were drawing something to their attention that was unpleasant for them to handle.
Yeah.
So they needed to look into their own maybe contradictions that they swallowed possibly in that moment. The things they've accepted as truths that they've never really given any serious attention to, and they've just carried on blindly accepting that vague generality they've accepted as a truth. And maybe your questions were prodding that part in them that, you know, would not ask those questions. But because you did, they were in a position where they were forced to look at it.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Like the idea was to get them to rethink what they were doing, you know. No point educating the ones that know, like, you know, go to the ones that do not know.
And I remember one of the things you mentioned to me was something about that they were asking you about where you're from and what your educational background is, or something like that. They had some casting some aspersions about.
Yeah, that they wanted to know, like they were giving me all these legal terms, and I had no idea what that was. And you know, they were talking about school and all this shit. Yeah, I did not know what that was. It was like, yeah, it's a bit off topic.
So then, in some way, they were trying to establish that they have some intelligence or knowledge and speak about things that are nothing to do with morality, but just so it makes them sound like they have some level of authority.
Yeah, look, some were good. Like they were listening. They really were listening, and they were all in agreement with themselves. Like it wasn't like it was more like they were anger. There was a bit of anger that they had missed something. That was more what it was like at the end.
So when you say miss something, just give me an idea of what you mean by that.
Like they've never heard someone ask them, like they've never heard someone bring up the point that they are public servants and that they do work for us.
Oh, so in a way where it's required clarity from them to understand what it is that they've actually come to promote without realizing that they don't know.
Yeah.
So in a way, you're exposing their lack of knowledge.
Yeah. That's about right. Yeah.
And that's where the anger was coming from.
That and that you know, we like what we were doing is that we're selecting like a new master, and that we have like one of the questions was like, how do we, you know, hold them accountable, something like that. And that we've got no accountability structure.
I think you started talking about trial by jury, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
You want to tell us about that part?
Yeah, they said we had a jury. They said we've got jury, and then I was like, no, that's the fake courts, and you know, my understanding is not too good at the moment. So I was like, you know, a jury is, you know, like, you know, might be wrong, but you just walk in and you judge from your own conscience. Like none of this, whatever the fuck happens in their fake courts.
Yeah. So the premise of it is actually correct, right? There's no actual one individual judge. There's 12 judges. They're just called the jury. So that's correct. But I think what you're trying to outline, if I understand, is that the people are in charge of the decisions that matter.
Oh yeah.
Not one individual. That's
not the judge.
Yeah. So that's what you were trying to get across. And how was that being received?
Yeah, again, they didn't really give me much. They not too much. Yeah.
So then they weren't showing that they were understanding it? Was it just like you know, like dead air? If you're watching TV, you just get those signals where there's just like haze. Was it kind of like that? Was just a bit of emptiness coming back?
Yeah, almost like that. It was really like they had missed something, and that me being like younger than them, that me like bringing it up to them. They didn't like that too much. And then that they would ask me like,
oh yeah,
could that be humiliation creeping in and having a young person, you know, they're not going to admit it publicly, but that humiliation comes out as dismissal or anger or sometimes violence.
Yeah.
So would that be the stem of it? They're actually being humiliated because of their lack of knowledge. You're asking great and sincere questions, and they obviously understand that. They're questions that they should know the answers to, but clearly don't. So that to them is humiliating. And while they're standing out the front in their whatever coloured shirt, handing out their how to vote card for whatever their favourite brand is this year, you have the opportunity there to expose them to the public as they're handing out the card, as not knowing why they're standing there doing it. Essentially.
Yeah, that's pretty spot on. That's pretty spot on. Yeah.
Huh.
And so, being
Wow.
that you're younger, you imagine that would have been twice as infuriating, is what I'm guessing, because there's that idea that they're older, so they've got something to teach you, not the other way around.
Yeah, that's kind of how, like, when I walked up to them, they were expecting, legal questions. I don't know. They gave off some terminology that I didn't understand, and so they were expecting questions like that. So when I hit them with, like, what does it mean to be a public servant, they were just really shocked, and they really the first one really got them to rethink it.
So what I'm getting out of this, something really beautiful happened, and that is that it shows that the majority of people have accepted somebody's prejudice as a fact, because that's what the legal system is. It's somebody's prejudice, and they're more versed in explaining somebody's prejudice than that which is verifiable fact that's grounded in reality. And you were bringing that up, and they were lost.
Yeah, they were lost. Yeah.
It shows you the inversion of reality that's actually right there before your eyes.
Yeah. And it was, yeah, keep going.
I was just going to say, it was being exposed right in front of you. So the lessons that we've been going on about here is how life has been inverted, reality's been inverted, right? The truth is not the truth. The truth is somebody's opinion, and then it's accepted en masse, right? And so from what I'm getting out of what you experienced was that happening right before your eyes, because they were more versed talking about something legal than they were about something that was verifiable.
Yeah.
And that's what the reality that we all can identify. And that wasn't something they could recognize. And when you started bringing it up, they didn't know what to do with it.
And then, the second question, like, what does it mean to be in service? Like, it was like that repeating almost of the same question. And they were just really shocked. Like, they didn't really know what to say. And then by the third or fourth, they started, like, getting a bit angry. Like, they were like, what are we doing here? Like, we didn't even realize that, they serve us.
So if I'm understanding this, and correct me if I've misunderstood, are you saying something about the anger was not towards you, but towards themselves, as to being, like, confused as to what it is they're serving? Like, that started becoming aware. They started becoming aware of that. Is that what you reckon was happening?
Yeah, that's exactly what I reckon was happening.
So it was more of disappointment within themselves, more than anything you'd done or said?
Yep, spot on.
Wow. So that's a really powerful thing, to be able to bring someone into that space where it's not you they're attacking, it's them looking inward about their own frailties and fragilities that have actually led them to make choices that are out of service with what they've truly sought to do. Yeah. So that's why I was really excited when I read your feedback, because that's what I picked up, is that you'd actually seen that firsthand, instead of just now it was a lesson that you've been learning through listening. You were actually having that verified in real time, the low level consciousness by which the majority operate from.
Yeah, you're spot on. And you look at the person or the people that were there, like they were good people. they look like good people, and you could talk to them on the street about, mundane topics, and they'd be very nice and respectful. And then, and if you're in the majority, and you would go up to them, you would almost look at them as like some sort of authority figure if you believe in that. And so that's kind of it. And they probably felt like authorities. So, when I was asking those questions, that would probably would have resonated with them.
So if we're talking superficial expression, right? So if you were to make an assessment on just looking at them by what they're doing, the assessment would be that they have some kind of knowledge, they have some kind of self-empowerment, they are connected to something bigger than them. That would be the assessment, I guess, when you see someone handing out pamphlets to vote. And that's probably the idea they had of themselves up until you started asking them questions. Is that the sense you got?
Yeah. And like my perspective is of the younger crowd. So when I didn't know about the 1215 Magna Carta, like I would have walked up to them and looked at them as authorities, like they knew everything,
Right. So now that you're very rare, because I don't know too many people in that age bracket that you're in that have any interest in learning about this. I've not come across that.
Yeah, well, I'm not a slave, so.
Well, that's brilliant. I love that, because your generation has been programmed to a level that no other generation has gone through before. Like what the assault that's been done on you guys is off the charts. So the fact that you can actually overcome that, what I'm really loving is that the eternal spirit that lives inside you, right? It doesn't matter about this, how much education you have in the brainwashing system, right? That makes people sound refined and all that kind of stuff. Is that indomitable spirit that lives inside you just knew that this is not okay. There is another way to live, and it's not being served, and you were driven to find out why. That's the true spirit being activated that cannot be extinguished. And so it shows you, no matter how old you are, if you can attach to that, you can overcome the brainwashing. That's why I love what happened, is because it shows that it's true. It's not age specific. It's all about what's your spirit, where it is in any given moment in time, how deep into it's attached to that sense of morality. And my guess is that you've got a real strong attachment to that as to why you were even driven to even get involved with MC 1215.
Yeah, well, I always loved the 10 Commandments.
Yep.
And then when I heard like no harm, no loss, no fraud, and all of that, like, it kind of, and then the golden rule of natural law was like, do unto others as you unto yourself. And that was kind of what I like to live by. And then when I heard that you'd be judged, that everyone's going to get judged, and I was like, yeah, well, my judgment probably won't be too good, so I think I better make the right action.
So there's something about your connection to morality of knowing which actions are in alignment with the service of life and which ones are out of alignment. So other people call that right and wrong action. I use different terminology. So there was something about that where you wanted to really attach to those actions where your gut is telling you this is the way I would choose to live, that's in harmony and that's going to bring me peace. Something about that is what was driving you.
Yeah, like you got to, government isn't they're supposed to serve me. I'm supposed to, tell them what to do. And that's not what's happening. Like, I don't have a choice of where the tax money goes, and I don't like that. So, putting them on notice, that sounds like a very good action to me.
So when you say put on notice, it's like letting the public servant know that they are not acting in service of the agreement by which they have authority to make decisions that affect our lives. Would that be an accurate way to put it?
Sorry, can you say that again? Sorry.
So what I'm saying is that you've understood that when you put a public servant on notice, because that's what they're supposed to be, someone who's in service to the people, you as their employer, because your tax dollars are meant to pay for the services that they're supposed to provide us, are letting them know that they are no longer doing the job that they have a grant of authority to do. So we, the people, gave them an authority to serve us. And how do we know that that's happening? Is through the understanding of morality. Any action that stays within the confines of what we all know, which is a moral action, is an act of service.
Mm-hmm.
Any action, like you said, being told what to do, that's not moral. That's immoral. To try and dictate to someone else is immoral, especially if your job is to be in service to them. And my guess is that that was probably something that was guiding you as to why you wanted to do this action.
Yeah, like those people, I would say they would have a big a voice in the community. So if you could change the way they think, then they would probably change the way if you could change the way they think, then that would affect, who they talk to.
So it's kind of like a grass movements idea, like start at the bottom and work your way up kind of thing. Is that what you were sort of thinking?
Yeah, like they would, they would obviously have their own little groups, and they would talk to each other about what they talk about, and then maybe they would go, "Oh, Harry came up, and he was telling me that they're public servants," and then and then all of a sudden they start telling all their friends, and
so it was something about if they were able to attach to the truth just like you did, that they would be it'd be an involuntary thing from this point. They would be driven from a place that they can't control to want to share what they've learnt and discovered, just like you have. Is it something like that?
Yeah. But I don't think I did a good enough job. I reckon that they're in some, they're definitely rethinking it, but they probably don't know what they can do about it. That's probably where I probably can do better.
Yeah, I mean, as a first time trial of just actioning an intention, were you happy with the fact that you even went ahead and did it?
Yeah. Like when I pulled out the piece of paper, they were very impressed. Like they didn't like the fact that I come with notes and that I was reading something to them. That it really put them on the spot. They didn't like that, and it made it looked yeah, they didn't like the fact that I had the piece of paper and I come prepared with good questions about authority.
Yeah. So the fact that you've actually done some effort, it's not like you're just pulling stuff out of your left pocket, that you've actually done some thinking about this. You've done some preparation. So that would indicate that this is important to you. So you're serious about it. Those are the sort of messages they would be getting by seeing you actually pulling something out, because you've come prepared. And anyone who comes prepared, they usually show that there's a level of quality in what they're wanting to achieve.
Yeah.
And so maybe that's where you got the respect.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I'm just wondering if you got any questions, Carl?
Well, certainly got a few. Did you attract much attention? Were others interested in what you were saying, Harry?
Yeah. A lot of people stopped and just listened. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure that if they had the opportunity, would probably have asked you questions as well, but more to gain more knowledge about what you were trying to share. You obviously felt some pressure there at times well, they didn't want to answer your questions. They were going to obviously start pushing you away. You didn't video what you were doing. Fitz said, and I agree, you're very brave in doing what you did do, and it's that extra step again to take out the phone or get somebody else to take out a phone and video what you were doing. But that's where the powerfulness in what you have done, I think, last weekend stands. And in the future, we should all be doing this and looking to those people who pertain to be public servants. We should be able to question them, and we should be able to record ourselves questioning them. The level of personal embarrassment or humiliation that some of those people you spoke to the other day might have been feeling, while significant for them at the time, may not be enough to push them into action to actually discover the answers to some of those questions. However, when they understand that it's going out live or going out to a show or whatever you put together afterwards, there is that's going to raise at another level, their humiliation, potentially their anger. So for people who might consider going and doing this at their next council election, their next state election, the next federal election, what's your advice to them? I mean, I know you didn't step up with a camera. Next time, will you? Are you feeling empowered by this?
Yeah, I think I might get the camera out. They didn't really want to push me away. It was kind of more like they had enough.
Yeah.
But yeah, getting the camera out would probably been a good choice.
Yeah,
I'm just going to jump in quickly, Carl. This might be something the larrikins might like to do, because I know they've done that before.
Yes, and I'm pretty confident the larrikins will be in the room at some. So I haven't seen a galactic larrikin say anything, but they are usually floating around in our programs. So that could very well be something the galactic larrikins would be interested in doing. And as we plan on travelling around through the country and the states a fair bit next year together, I'm sure we will be barreling through some council areas, or we'll go through some election areas. New South Wales is having an election next year, I think, state election next year. So I'm sure there is an opportunity to go forward from there. I'm not sure. Elaine is asking in the chat whether or not Harry is in Melbourne. So I don't know, Harry, if you want to give away your location or not, that's up to you.
I'm in Melbourne.
I think you've done a magnificent job, mate. Can we actually ask, how old are you?
I'm 22.
Wow. So do you discuss this with your friends?
A little bit. They look. They do like it. They do like it, but it's like the distractions that have been created for everyone. That they like the money, and like just the endless scrolling. Everyone just seems to be addicted to it.
Yeah,
and that just can't seem to stop. Like all these distractions. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do there, but they know about mind control.
Harry, Elaine says that she'd love to come and film and ask questions with you. So you've got a friend, my friend, and she's actually in the MC chat channel, so you might be able to hook you guys up.
In a purely platonic kind of way. We're
absolutely. Sorry. Sorry, Elaine, I didn't mean it that way.
Don't want to go putting words in people's mouths or anything else for that matter.
Whoops.
Just to be clear. So yes, no, Harry, I think you've done an excellent job. I just thought inspiring for someone of your age, and hopefully people around you, I guess of a similar age, maybe a bit older, a bit younger at different points, are responding to it. But I think, as you described, young folks are apt to take the path of least resistance, and certainly the least resistance to going out and having a good time or doing the things that they want to do. So I think you should be commended and applauded. And mate, you could lead a movement here, from council meetings to or councillors, local councillors, all the way through to state premiers or federal prime ministers. I think you've done real federal ministers in your state, your capital. So yeah, I think, Harry, you should be commended, mate. Thank you very much. I think a round of applause. If I could do more than clap myself, I would. But there you go. A round of applause. I feel a bit like a seal and throw me a fish.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
the main thing I wanted to achieve was like to get them to change their thoughts, because and like the people are the only ones that have the power to change anything. Like we don't have a savior. So it's through our actions, by changing people's thoughts, is anything really going to change? That's what I believe. So yeah, that's what I was trying to do, and that was like my first step.
That's really powerful, Harry, like what you've just said, because that's the whole 1215 movement. It's all that the power sits with each and every one of us when we unify behind the truth. And there's only one law that represents the truth, and that's the laws of morality, and that's only expressed in the 1215 Magna Carta. It's not expressed anywhere else. So I can see why you were attached and why you came to this movement, because that's exactly what it's about. It's about each individual, doing their bit. Because what we actually do in reality, the actions we take, are what affects other people. So you intuitively understood that. That's what I was really excited about when you approached me.
Yeah.
So there's I just have a look here. Marianne says maybe he should go to my place and hold his talk. How would that be for you, Harry?
Oh, I personally don't like going out in public very much. Yeah.
Probably have to find a video link to do that.
Yeah, that's certainly something we could set up and be very happy to do so. Each to their own. I spoke to John Wilson the other day. I sort of said, "Would you like to come for a trip to North Queensland?" He said, "Oh, I'd like to stay on the boat, really." So I understand. It's how it works. No, I think Harry, you would be happy to help though if we called on you and can get you back on for another show. I think you're okay with that, are you?
Yeah, this was fun. Yep.
Oh, well, so we can get a recommendation from you that coming on and talking on the Voice of Freedom on the Magna Carta channel isn't at all intimidating or upsetting.
No, not at all. Not at all.
We haven't made it hard.
No, it was not hard. It was it's pretty easy.
You haven't been coerced, you haven't been coerced or paid.
I wish I got paid. That'd be not. No, I'm joking. No, I come on my own free will. So,
excellent, buddy.
Hopefully, it was the right decision. We'll see. I guess we'll see what happens.
Well, just by looking at some of the comments in here, Harry, you've got a lot of people that I've seen really respond positively to you. Because for someone who's 22, right, there's people that are 4 times your age that have no clues about anything you just said.
Oh well, even myself, I'm not too deep in the understanding just yet. So if that makes sense, so I still got a lot to go.
But you understand the critical part is here. You understand the principles because you outlined them just a moment ago. That's what's critical. Is you there's no resistance to the principles of morality inside you. It's all acceptance. And that's all you need. You don't need anything more. It just shows that this is accessible to anybody. As long as you're standing within those principles, everything else just happens on its own. And that's what you've demonstrated. That's what I love this.
No, thank you for that. Yeah.
It's a real pleasure. So thank you for agreeing to come on, my friend.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's all right. That's all right. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, buddy. Have a good night.
Yeah, you too. All right.
We'll see you tomorrow, Harry.
Bye.
That's excellent. I'm blown away. Young bloke, keen enough to go and stand up and ask questions that need to be asked of everyone who thinks or takes a wage under the guise of a public servant. Do you really understand what a public servant does? What public service is? At 2 points in my life, I think, going back a lot of years, I had to do, or did do for whatever reason, a public service exam. Now, I failed that exam twice, and I think I've got a bit of an idea on public service. But they wouldn't want anybody in the public service who actually wanted to serve the public, Fitz. I think that's what we're starting to discover.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I would like to know if there's any teachers that are on the channel tonight, and tell me if you've ever taken an oath before you could secure your job. I'm willing to bet no. But teachers are classed as a public servant. And so it shows you how far removed our structure is from actually providing a service.
Yeah.
It's on the other end. And that's why this crime still keeps happening, because at the elementary level, we're not even doing the first thing that's required, and that is to take a pledge to stand under the principles of universal morality. If that was the first thing you were required to do and had that explained to you, there's no chance we'd be having this system of education that they're running today, where the parents don't have any say in the type of education their children have, and the teachers just do what they're told without any question. That would never be happening. That would be stopped immediately. So that's the first thing that we need to change if we want to have a system of public service, is every single teacher needs to take a pledge to understand what the principles of universal morality actually are, to demonstrate they understand it first, and then pledge to actually hold within that. We would see an entirely different education system if that was the case. Right then and there, problem solved. So the reason why I wanted to bring this forward is that if we want to heal and we want to actually have a system where we can live in freedom, we all need to understand what morality is and be able to define it, have a clear definition of what it means.
Yeah.
And if we don't know that, then we're always going to be in disagreement and argument. But here, there's no argument if we all understand the same thing. And then we can actually have a system of service because it's all clear what it means. And so right now, there's no clarity. Like Harry really explained how these people had no clarity about the terms they've accepted that they believe they understand. But they were never able to clarify it, not once.
Staggering, isn't it?
Yeah.
And yet they all feel they're doing the right thing.
This was a great example of and exposed the level of low consciousness that the majority of people operate from, believing that they are actually, some kind of form of intelligence. And it's a contradiction if they can't even understand the most fundamental basic principles of reality, yet they still call themselves intelligent.
Well, they're hardly going to come on and admit that they're, not intelligent, not smart. They certainly come across as smarter. For whatever reason, they use bigger words. If you listen to the sentences that they speak, they mean nothing. I find dealing with those sorts of individuals very difficult. I once had a short but very energetic conversation with a gentleman who was very, very much like that, like to speak in great long sentences that said absolutely nothing. And I'm not capable of dealing with people like that on a polite basis. So we agreed to disagree and haven't spoken since. I think, Fitz, we might leave it there tonight. I know that there is other things attached to the PowerPoint for this evening, including a document that you've prepared, which I have read while the power was off. I managed to read through it. It is a significant document, and we would be here for another 2 hours going through that tonight just alone. I have spoken to you offline about what I plan to do with that document, and I can tell you, folks, that you are going to want to go to vofhq.com in the next day or two and go to our Magna Carta 1215 page and download what I will upload in the next day or two. Fitz has written a document which I believe you're going to find changes your life in many ways if you understand it. And we've joked, those of you who've listened to this program over the 22 episodes that we've put together know that I quite often refer to Fitz as my alien and that he speaks in a different language. Well, the document that he has prepared for us, it is, in fact, I think, better said as two documents. It really is one, but we're going to split it into two parts. it is some of the most magnificent writing and understanding I have been presented with in my memory. Fitz, you are to be commended for that document. And I think when people get a hold of this and it spreads, you are going to be remembered for this. I think people are going to seek you out and want to talk about this document. It is immensely powerful. It is immensely educative. And I believe everyone should have to read this document, and not just read it, but comprehend it. That's part of, I think, the biggest problem we have. People might read things, but comprehending what's going on is a whole different matter. So I know that what you do when we go through the PowerPoints is help with comprehension, because sometimes they are written in what I lovingly call alien speak. But you do break it down into something that is very easy for us all to understand. And I'm looking forward to doing that with you over these, well, all I can say is very powerful documents that you've written. And thank you very much. I don't know how long it took you to write those, Fitz, but they are awesome documents.
Yeah, I was just laughing when I saw my name spelt as Fritz, so I just got a bit distracted. Sorry. Back to what you were saying, because that always cracks me up when I see that. The reason why I wrote that is the intention was to feel the words. So instead of having an intellectual experience where you just understand it mentally, the intention was to actually sink in and feel what's actually alive in you when you visualize the words that you're reading. Because until we do that, we will never be moved to do anything that changes our reality. So that was the intention behind it. So I'm pleased it actually had that effect.
Yes, it's had a huge effect. I think the power blackout tonight was fortuitous, because I would have come across that document for the first time while we were doing the show, and I don't think I would have been able to read it and do it justice. It is involved. You write in a very specific way. You use very elegant language. It doesn't flow off the tongue easily, particularly if you want it to be understood. So I'm looking forward to actually recording that tomorrow, and we will have that to play, and folks will be able to download, and then we will do a show on this where you will break it down. I'm looking forward to that very much.
Just sort of, thanks, Carl. I am looking forward to, because that will take a while to break it down. I can see why it's going to be a few hours. Just looking at one comment, Starseeds at Patriots Down Under says, you're welcome to come and talk on my show, buddy, about this document. If you wanted to email me at fitz@vofhq.com, that's probably a really good way to organize that. So Starseed, if you can do that, that'd be awesome. Definitely more than happy to, go and speak to anyone who's interested. So please do that if you wanted to carry on with that.
I'm a bit jealous.
I'm getting dates.
Well, mate, I was speaking to Starseeds today, and there was no offer to go on the show there to me. So, right. Just saying.
Well, you've sold me up too quickly. So that's the thing.
It's all good. No, there was a better offer from Starseeds. It was beer and a steak. So we will catch up and have a beer and a steak at some stage. I'm looking forward to that. Very good indeed. All right, folks. Starseeds has said I've got his number. I do, Fitz. I can pass that along.
Wonderful.
Yeah, no, Fitz. Very powerful evening tonight, and thank you for bringing Harry on. If you can bring the quality of guest like Harry consistently, I think we're going to gain a lot more viewers and listeners to the program. It's very
the
upside
is that in the channel we are attracting people of that caliber and quality, and the masterclass that I'm running, I'm starting to see there's a high caliber and quality in that masterclass too. So there's a good chance that there'll be other people that might want to come onto the show and tell their story as well, because everyone's got something really powerful to share about their own private experience. And the beautiful thing about that is that when people have the courage to share their private experience, it triggers those who are listening something familiar in their own private experience. So this is how we can grow. It's those things that we say that we keep quiet, that we don't say out loud. Well, when you have the courage to say those quiet things out loud, it's amazing what comes from that. So definitely, I can see there's a lot of potential for that.
Yes, I think you're 100% right. I'm just going through a few of the comments myself. Starseeds, do you want to just post up your channel link in the comments, and I'll put it up so people can see it because they're being asked for it. Has some great knowledge, wonderful knowledge, and very worthwhile sharing. Fitz, I'm going to leave it there tonight. My house is about to get the front door opened and lots of happy people wanting to talk, so I'm going to go. Thank you, folks, for joining us again this evening, and we look forward to doing it all again in the next day or two. It's going to be very exciting.
Just quickly, guys, just wanted to plug the channel. So anyone who's interested, the channel that Harry's from, the one that that I'm adminning, it's called MC1215 Network Chat AU. However, the best place to find that link is to go to vofhq.com, vofhq.com, click on the link that says MC1215 or Magna Carta 1215, and then you will see the link that takes you to the Telegram group. That's the best way I know how you can get in, because it's a private channel, so you won't be able to search for it and find it. You'll have to have an invite link. So the quickest way is to go to vofhq.com and that invite link. One other thing I did want to say is that if anyone remembers the video we played a few weeks of the police engagement where they turned around and ran away instead of serving those court documents, well, we've actually now finally got to the stage where we've actually got a script up that's got what to do. Oh, thanks, Carl. That's what it looks like. Perfect. That's got a script of what to do when you get asked certain questions and how you respond, and then what to do if they don't answer the question. If you get a yes, then you do this. If you get a no, then you do that. So it's like a flow chart. So we've got that ready. I'm going to be posting that as soon as I get off tonight with you, Carl, and that'll be getting posted fresh up in the group. So if anyone wants to have some real solid foundation of when you're dealing with these public servants or what they're supposed to be and how to challenge them on their authority, just like in that video, and how to empower yourself, well, we've got the actual resources there for you.
Excellent. All right, mate. Thank you very much. Have yourself a wonderful week. It's
a pleasure, guys. Thank you, everyone who joined us tonight, and I look forward to seeing you all next week. Thanks again, brother.
You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up. Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life. It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back. Does anybody else want to stay? Let's rock!